Hello and welcome to Campaign Comrades, your favorite leftist gaming podcast. It is the end of the month. It is the end of March. We are here bringing our favorite news stories to your listening ears. We are covering a bunch of things, largely... I guess the Nintendo Direct is the outlier because the rest is just like business wheelings and dealings.
I mean, you're thinking too micro if you don't think a Nintendo Direct isn't business wheelings and dealings.
Yeah, but yeah, we had one Nintendo Direct. Is this like the first?
But what if we have two Nintendo Directs?
Yeah,
what about second Nintendo Direct?
I heard you like a Nintendo Direct, so we decided to give you a Nintendo Direct a week from your Nintendo Direct. Thank you, Exhibit.
I mean, there was leaks that indicated that this might have been intended to be in February originally.
Interesting. Why do you think it got pushed then? Well,
I mean,
when was the Switch 2 release? Oh, it wasn't.
That was in January.
That was just a video.
Yeah.
Time has completely flattened for me.
Yeah, so. there was the Pokemon Direct in February,
but that's not even a Direct. That's like Pokemon Presents is like its own kind of thing.
No, the running theory, at least that I've seen, was that Nintendo got annoyed that people were plotting out their plans, so they moved it, or it was a fake date to catch who was leaking.
That's galaxy brain thinking.
Either way, that's some big brain stuff. Yeah, we love to see them doing some four-dimensional chess.
Dude, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so we got a Nintendo Direct to start things off, but be on the lookout for the Switch 2 Direct. We just had to do our little check. What day of the week does that actually happen? That'll be coming Wednesday, April 2nd, and expect a reaction video on our YouTube probably the next Monday. Probably release it like normal, and yeah, we'll dive into this. I'm interested to see what they've got cooking. Is it just going to be a hardware deep dive? Is it going to be talking about launch lineup? I don't know.
But it's entirely going to be dedicated to the C button, and the C button isn't what anyone thinks it's going to be. It's a cookie button. You hit it, and then Miyamoto will hand deliver you one singular cookie.
The cookies from Nintendo Land are supposed to be pretty good, so...
Do you eat the cookies, or are you a true gamer and do you hoard them? Because they might be more useful later, and you may be rewarded.
Dip it in epoxy, and I put it on my shelf.
Yeah, you just have stacks of them, just hitting the button over and over again.
Yeah, we're still just, it's just pure speculation. We have no idea what's going on, because before we actually get into the actual Direct that we have, the last bit of discussion about, last bit of Switch 2 thing that we'll talk about until we actually know. Because we've been debating it in the group chat, and it's just like how I know at least half, maybe 3/4 of us will say that they have bungled the release of their just marketing type thing. Everything is just way too confusing. My simple thing is, if grandma don't understand, it's a failure for the toy company.
How is grandma not going to understand a 2 next to a name?
I understand that, but they don't know when it's coming out.
Because we haven't told us yet.
True, but they don't know what to
It's not like they gave us a release date and it was in an esoteric IRL.
It was in unknown
code that you have to crack, and then only once you crack the code will you be able to figure out where to order from a retailer. Well, as you show up to Best Buy and you're like, what is the password?
As you were describing to me, they're like, it's what if you were doing these hypotheticals, what if they only open up sales to Nintendo Online members, and I'm like, again, grandma don't have that. That's not going to work.
Yeah, that was
They're not going to do that.
What I was saying was initial pre-order. You open it up to people who've been subscribed to Nintendo Online for 2
No, you're making it.
He's means testing the console release. Yeah. It's not going to happen.
Nah. It needs to go to everybody.
Matt's just trying to convince
capitalism.
himself he won't get not a pre-order.
I'm not saying it won't go pre-order everywhere. I'm saying your initial pre-order round, you do it through Nintendo, just like Sony did with their initial Direct, and then 2 weeks later, all retailer pre-order for Pro.
Yeah, I don't think they will do a staged.
And that's different because that was the Pro. That's a plus, you know what I mean?
Is the Switch 2 not generally speaking a plus model?
No, it's not.
It's not.
That's not what they're marketing at all. It's a new console.
It's a new console.
It's a new
Next
generation
gen.
console,
Yeah.
not a.
I still think that there
Fifty.
might be a tier system to it to try to get ahead of what everyone's worried about with scalping, which I don't think will happen.
Oh, you
I
mean,
mean-
tiered system with? I thought you were just about to say like a tiered thing that they're gonna unleash. Oh, we've got a Switch 2 and a Switch 2 Plus.
No, I'm thinking like a tiered system
a
of
Switch
like
2 Pro.
April 4th
Okay,
pre-orders
no,
on
I got it,
Nintendo
I got it.
Direct, April 12th pre-orders at all retailers.
Okay, maybe that's potentially likely, but I don't know if they'll tie it behind you have to be a subscriber, but because like the PS Direct is just like it's just an access point type thing. You don't have to have a PS Plus subscription to access that. It's except
You're
for like
just
when
generating
except for
traffic to their
when
website.
it was like really like in the height of supply chain shit during COVID, it was all like you had to get an invite to it. That was again, and that was a fucking bungle. Again, that's the whole thing. Is like that's not something to emulate.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I was a little worried just by seeing the quote unquote unnamed analyst saying that all pre-orders are going to sell out. I'm like, you got to be kidding.
I mean, the Switch pre-orders sold out, but you could still go into store launch week and buy them after the initial launch.
I hope stock is not a problem. We are still living in a post-Biden inflation world, so
And it's still all Biden's fault.
just
It's
blame
all
Uncle
Biden's
Joe.
fault.
If you can't get your Switch 2 and put in your digital cart, blame Joe Biden. But yeah, Matt, explain to me the virtual game card as described in what is being understood as our final base Switch 1 Nintendo Direct, a historic moment.
So the general idea behind it is to allow multiple systems in a household to have access to a digital game, but to do it in a way where it's essentially like lending your friend your physical cartridge, but it's doing it with a digital means, more or less. Yeah, I know.
What was the previous limitation on digital game access? Was it purely
Console.
just whatever device it's downloaded to, or could you download it to any device?
It was
you've signed
whichever
into?
Switch was set up as the main Switch. So like I have a Switch OLED and a Switch 1. My Switch OLED is my primary Switch, so all of my digital games are active there only.
Because like
If I want to
logged
activate
into-
them on the other one, this one needs to be shut off, and the original Switch needs to be reset to the primary.
I mean, and it's the same
That
thing
is an
with,
improvement. I figured it was something like that, but just like I only have the one Switch. I had like a very vague. The only type of understanding I had about it was when Switch 2 was first being becoming more concrete, and just the idea that I'm gonna gift my regular Switch to my nephews, and I have some digital games there that I would have liked
the
to maybe be able
forward-thinking
to share
idea,
with them. But
I think the
I don't even think
forward-thinking
with this
plan-
one I'll be able to do it because it has to be on local network to be able to do the exchange. So like that's just still
The forward-thinking plan is that this is setting up for Switch 2, so that if you're a household that has a Switch 2 and still has a Switch 1, you can share the digital games back and forth just like you could with the cartridges.
And so here is another interesting bit that people dug into through, and this was from the virtual game card thing, is that there's like some semi-fine print on it that like specifically mentions, I wish I had the language right in front of me, but it's like Switch 2 versions of games. So
Two editions.
Yeah, it like you would infer that there is going to be like maybe, and it may be for purchase, like PlayStation has done like a $10 upgrade. Did Matt freeze?
I think he did.
I think
Yeah,
he
he
did. And I think his PC to his regular crash routine. Well, the three of us will speculate for the time being that that there's potentially going to be an upgrade path for enhancing old Switch
1 games.
Yeah. We know that there's going to be backwards compatibility for essentially every game, but that there's going to be a path for potential upgrades as well.
Am I wrong in remembering that they're changing the game, like the physical game format? It's like a different size cartridge. Am I just completely making that up?
No,
That
it's
may have just been
probably-
mocked up stuff. I don't know that that's been confirmed or not.
If they're
Okay.
gonna do anything, it'll be like they did with the DS to the 3DS, where
A little
it's
nub.
a little notch,
A little nub.
so that the two can't go into the one, so you can't
Right.
fuck up and
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know that the only thing that are here are mock-ups of it's
That
exactly
was
that.
crazy.
It's exactly that. It has these little nubs.
You guys missed it. Andrew Andrew and I both drank at the same time. Like, literally.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, I think they're still going to have to make sure that it's got the bitter
welcome back.
the bitter taste to it. The corporate spies at Nintendo got his ass momentarily.
They did.
He had to just fight him off.
No, what I was saying before everything froze out was it seems like there will be upgraded versions of at least some Nintendo Switch games for Switch 2. That's what that's what seems to be the implication of an additions. Whether or not that's a free just post-launch update,
like a patch,
a small like a $10 to $15 paid upgrade, like some PS5 games. I don't expect it to be a like a full price upgrade if you already have the game. I could see it being a like reboxing with a new Switch 2 cartridge.
Maybe they do that with like some of their big ones, like Tears of the Kingdom,
Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
If there is a god, then yes.
P-titties, baby.
Yeah, if there is a god, then yes, that will happen. If there isn't, then we know that we live.
There was some fun discourse.
God is dead, and we have killed him.
Yeah, Alvis is
through
real.
Through the sheer force of anime titties.
There was some fun discussion where people were like, do you think there will be a Xenoblade Chronicles 2 like definitive edition version? And it's one of those like, I don't know, because right now Xenoblade Chronicles 1, 3, and X, all of those run on the 2 engine. So if you were to do a definitive edition, you would need a new-ish engine to warrant the...
Yeah, I mean, at most maybe it would be a remaster just because 2 is by far the worst running of all of them.
Yeah, because it was the first running on the Switch.
It's technically the oldest one that was in terms of Switch hardware, because the definitive edition for Xenoblade 1 came out.
I mean, what they were able to get out of the Switch in its launch year for a game was kind of incredible.
It was fun to go do the spelunking stuff, the salvage thing with Rex to then pop back up from the cloud seat and have 0 textures, to have all textures on the model just gone. That was fun. That was always fun.
You don't even know the original Dark Ages. The original Dark Ages were the launch handheld version that was like barely pushing 480p.
I only played it in handheld version when I was doing Tiger.
It's been updated and upgraded since.
But that was the only time. It was like when I was grinding Tiger for Poppy parts.
We love Tiger.
I would play that in bed before I went to bed, so I didn't kill myself. So
yeah, the virtual carts was one of the interesting setup announcements for the Switch 2 in the Switch 1 Direct. Jesus fucking Christ. Stop.
His cats are they have the devil in them today.
They simultaneously, all 3 of them woke up from naps right at the start of recording, so now they're just...
chaos.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you were onto something with the C button being a cookie delivery system, and Nintendo activated your cats. And
he's found us. He's found us out. He's about to break embargo.
I would put money down on the C button being a chat/community button, some form of social.
Yeah, I think that's hold on. With that being your speculation, does Nintendo get a better P2P system, or are we still...
No, it's still going to be peer-to-peer. I don't think they're going to change anything regarding that. I think they're just going to be bringing back like the Mii's and the stuff like that from the Wii U, and 3DS era.
I mean, can I get a hell yeah in the chat?
I mean, yeah.
Still got a dock.
We love our Mii's. It's Mii resurgence.
I mean, it's pretty inevitable because I'm pretty sure Nintendo Today, the app that they also launched at the Direct, lets you build and set up a Mii again.
That's dope. I mean, and also you saw with the game that I had never heard of, but apparently has an absolutely
Tamagotchi.
Devote like cult-like following.
Yeah,
is Tamagotchi Life.
That was absolutely the game they were talking about being a Nintendo revival of a niche franchise.
I just like saw so many clips online of just people being like...
people losing their shit.
But it just going like in an earlier... It was like during like there was like a Tamagotchi released, they're like, oh, what if we just like, switched the G with a D and it was Tamagotchi, and then just immediately next post is just Tamagotchi life, and someone guessed it within the opening 3 seconds when the character farted. They're like, oh my god, Tamagotchi, and are just losing their fucking minds, and I'm just like, I was unfamiliar with your game, sir or madam.
I mean, that just to cover it a little bit here. This is the beauty of Nintendo. They encompass all sorts of fans in the weird franchises and the little things that they love. You got your Tamagotchis, you've got your Animal Crossings, you've got your anime waifu titty games, you've got your
real
arena
culture.
fighters, you've got your kart racers, you've got your Italian plumbers.
I don't understand the appeal, but like I'm happy
Italian
for that.
plumbers.
That applies there. That applies there as well. But I guess I'm happy for both of them.
I think it works somehow.
Nintendo did it today. Took a day for the App Store to like formally recognize its full launch.
Yeah, Matt texted me and was like, I've downloaded Nintendo today, and I'm like, how? I can't find it. And so he gives me like this 4-step method of
search for any Nintendo app. Click on Nintendo as a publisher, and then scroll through their app list, and it's there.
Scroll through their app list and find it and download.
My assumption being that because it was brand new and not downloaded yet, it wasn't going to show up for searches because it wasn't a fully like verified and vetted app yet.
Which is wild to me. That's a company as big as Nintendo wouldn't have that all squared away. Which is why I said
it shows up now when you search. As
it's
one
like
of the top.
When like one of the within 12 hours they're like, yeah, it's already broken, and I'm like, yeah, because Nintendo don't know how to internet.
I mean, I think I sent it to just Ben, but
That's why
it was
they're doing
Nintendo today is clearly Nintendo setting themselves up for a post-Twitter world where they can control their own launch and news cycles.
They're just going to rendition any leaker to a black site, plug them into the Matrix brain battery machine, and it's like, you will, through your brain power alone, you will run.
Because I mean,
Nintendo
let's
today.
be honest here. Them announcing a release date for a Zelda movie exclusively on their app is a pretty big step.
It's actually a malware program to catch the leakers, because they'll inevitably have the Nintendo Today app, and then that's how they've hacked the system.
No, leakers don't use first-party apps. They know someone whose uncle works at Nintendo.
So it is funny to me that like, the downfall of Twitter X is leading us back to like the the early app world where
The Slavic internet.
Yeah, where like there's an app for that. Like you have to have like 85 apps. Like everything has an app. Any like
When X is the everything app, it is the nothing app.
Yeah. X is becoming a one of the like a fucking basically
This is the Walmart of app.
Ukrainian, Romanian, fucking Slavic internet. I said a lot of words to say none.
There's
but
an
speaking
interest
of
hold on. One thing before we move on, because there were another couple of things there. I mean, we did get some culture. Dragon Quest HD
1 and 2.
1 and
We didn't get
2.
a date, which probably means November. Is my assumption.
Saga Frontier 2 remastered. Kind
Nothing
of
super crazy there, but that's fun. We got another Atlas remaster with Raidu.
kind of a
And
niche
they
SMT
finally-
remaster.
Atlas has finally hit a point of recognition where they don't need to attach the Shin Megami Tensei name to every game they release, because this was
Which it's just weird for this one, right? You'd think that for a more niche title in like a spin-off SMT thing, that they would want to make that connection clear, because it took me a little bit to be like, oh yeah, it's Atlas, they're summoning devils, that's got to be SMT related. But
it was a thing they did early on in the early 2000s and the late 90s, because they did it with Persona too, with Shin Megami Tensei Persona. And they attached that name to everything they released because it was like, out west, people know what Shin Megami Tensei is. So if they see that name attached to the game, they're more likely to try it out than if we just call it Persona. And then Persona took on its own life to the point where like, oh wow, we don't need to attach a name anymore. We can just call it Persona and the series speaks for itself. And they've now hit that point because that's the same thing with, what's the one that they released a couple years ago? It was a sequel.
describe. Is it in the SMT verse? Or?
It was originally.
Crap. They name an archetype after it in Soul Hackers.
Yeah, Soul Hackers. There we go. Soul Hackers 2. We got there. No, the standout of the direct for me at the very least was more footage of Prime 4. And my reaction to Ben after watching the footage was it's so funny to see the dichotomy between how good Prime 4 can look on the Switch and just how absolutely dogshit Legend Z to A can look in comparison.
Yeah, we hadn't even mentioned that Z to A got another look at it. Mike and I were talking before either of you logged in. I was just like, it wasn't intentional on my part. My brain just completely glazed over when I was watching the direct for the Pokemon thing. I was like, did they show anything new? Was there new bits of battle mechanics? And I don't remember. I couldn't remember.
I've seen something from leakers about 27 new Mega Evolutions as part of the game.
Yeah, so that's been leaked stuff.
I couldn't
That's
tell if
been
you were
going-
making a joke or not.
No, that's real.
No, that's legit. Or that they're leakers, but they've been saying that for months. But what they did show was like small battle mechanics. There's like little Easter egg things of like a confirmed Ampharos, Mega Evolution. But the one thing that they did show is sneak attack battles at night, where you can sneak up on a trainer and just fucking attack them and get advantage.
Does it function like D&D sneak attack, where every rogue is going to think it applies to every single combat mechanic and encounter?
But here's the thing. If you do it correctly, it does.
Yes.
I just know that I've played so many games with so many different rogues who are like, I can apply sneak attack to my spell damage, right? No. I can apply sneak attack even though there's nothing imposing.
Dude, there's so many ways you can
advantage.
apply sneak attack. So, sometimes you get them mixed up.
So long as you
Well,
hide.
the fun one is when they
beforehand,
get sneak
you're
attack
good.
and assassinate confused.
But yeah, that could only be done on the first turn. All right, so the one last thing I wanted to mention was the addition of two classic Sony properties that Sony seems to have officially washed their hands of, and it's like, Nintendo, you can take them now. There's the Patapon 1 and 2, and they've slightly renamed it, but now it's instead of Hot Shots Golf, it's now Everybody's Golf Hot Shots.
Well, I mean, Sony and Nintendo are partnering for their movieverse, so maybe their movie partnership was like them sitting down together for the first time since a really bad breakup a couple years ago, and like maybe Sony like put their hand on Nintendo's leg and they're like, oh wow, this feels right. It feels like we should never have broken up before. And then Nintendo reached over and was like, do you mind if I have some of your popcorn? And reached in and pulled out Patapon and Hot Shots.
Andrew, you're a golf game sicko. Any interest in Hot Shots? Hot Shot Golf?
I've played some of the prior versions. It's a fun arcadey golf game, It's a little bit more complex than Mario Golf, but it's much closer to that sort
first
of
things first.
game.
I will not stand for any slander for Mario Golf.
I'm
Mario
not
Golf is
slandering.
the pinnacle of golf gaming.
I'm not slandering. It's just arcadey. And Hot Shots is a little more of a realistic experience, but still very much an arcade golf game. It's fun, it was timing based. I don't know if they've gone to something more like a stick, using the stick to do a swing type of thing, which is where like the more realistic golf game sims.
Building a cardboard Labo golf club.
Yeah, maybe. But I'm like interested. I don't know. I enjoy those games. If it gets reviewed well, I might check it out.
This was a direct that had a lot of like little things, because obviously it's the end of the Switch 1 life cycle and they don't want to sit here and blow their load and be like, oh, by the way, here's some Switch 2 games that are coming out, like cross-generational, aside from Prime 4, which I think they've already shown enough of where they have to be like, yeah, this is still coming, guys. We didn't forget about it.
And it's clearly going to be, cross-platform.
Yeah, at this point, because we still don't have a date, it's inevitable that it'll be a Switch 2 and Switch 1 game that you could buy either.
Were you going to say something, Andrew?
Are you expecting like all of these games that they've announced? Because a lot of them didn't have release dates besides just 2025.
I would expect all of these to be cross-release at the very least, or just be a Switch 1 game that is playable on Switch 2.
That's what I'm curious about.
I think that's why they did it with this virtual game card thing, because there are so many of these things where like either pre-order or buy today on the eShop. It's like, don't worry, you've bought them on your Switch so you can play them today, but here is a mechanism for you to be able to switch it to the Switch.
Yeah.
You know,
Say your
switch to the
family gets a Switch
2.
2, but you still keep a Switch 1 for the kids. You can now switch Tomodachi back and forth between them.
It's their way of being like, hey, you can still buy these games now, and you don't like. Please stop, not
Waiting.
buying our games because you think that Switch 2 is coming next month. Please, just our revenue is falling. while you guys are waiting, so please, you can buy these and play them and enjoy them now and enjoy them later as well. I do think it was that release. I was like, okay, yeah, all of these are going to be cross generation.
And so your expectation then though is that they're cross gen more because it's backwards compatible as opposed to there being like a Switch 2 version and a Switch version of these games.
That's what my expectation for a lot of these smaller games would be.
Yeah, I don't think that they'll put in the funding or development time to make a different version.
You'll still be able to buy it on the eShop
better
on the Switch 2 as a native version, but I wouldn't expect to see any of these to have like a physical like Switch 2, maybe Prime. I would expect Prime 4 to potentially have a Switch 2 and a Switch 1 case physical version.
Yeah, as a flagship property, that is the most likely.
Yeah, I'm still team Prime 4 is going to be a launch game.
Pokemon 2, maybe. I would assume
Pokemon 2 will absolutely have a physical Switch 2 and a Switch 1 version.
Yeah.
They're not going to throw away all of the kids who will still be on Switch 1 by holiday time.
Yep.
Switch 2 version will run worse.
Switch 2 version will look better but have more bugs.
That's their goal.
I feel like it's going to look worse.
It's only going to look worse because the resolution is going to increase. So you're going to be like, wow, look at that. Look at that repeated texture.
I can see the pixels, boss.
Yeah.
I always appreciate every time there's like a Pokemon presentation where people do this is what Xenoblade looks like and this is what Pokemon looks like on Switch, and just the raw dichotomy of like clearly a studio who knows what they're doing with optimizing for the Switch and getting the most out of it, and clearly a studio who's just rolling in the money of people who buy it no matter what.
Speaking of people,
you're gonna roll it in that money no matter where it comes from.
No matter where it comes from.
Eventually set you up.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've been waiting for the layup so I could dunk that ball.
Alley-oop?
Sports talk.
I don't think that this counts as an alley-oop. I don't think anything regarding the Pokemon Go sale counts as an alley-oop. If anything, it counts as two referees like setting each other up for the technical ejection combo.
So, well, it's not. So Pokemon Go was recently bought by a company.
Is it Pokemon Go or was like Niantic itself?
It's a bunch of Niantic.
It was all of the Niantic properties. Just no one cares about any of the other ones because the Harry Potter and Monster Hunter games were dog shit.
People do play the Monster Hunter one. I was seeing at the
Monopoly
release
Go.
of Wilds.
Monopoly Go is the other one, the other big one.
I didn't know that there was
who played the Harry Potter one.
I didn't know there was.
And would go on like
AR
legitimate
Monopoly.
vacations to go to like whatever their version of the Pokemon Go things in Chicago or like Berlin, Germany were.
Yay. Niantic sold off a bunch of properties. So the news is
Clash of Clans owner, isn't it? Or something, one of the games along those lines.
No.
Yeah, but like they own specifically like a Clash of Clans like game or something.
So
a Clash of Clans like. Okay,
can I?
Yeah, go ahead. It's your story. It's your story. Go ahead.
All right. So it was sold off to Scopely, which is for $3.5 billion. I don't know I believe that's for all the properties. So Scopely is an American company, but it is partially owned by the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund.
Kingdom Maker.
And so, yeah, Scopely owns a lot of other mobile games. The fun thing about Scopely is it was founded in 2011 by these four dudes, two of them angel investors. One of them, Etan Elbaz, who created Google AdSense and sold Google AdSense for $102 million in 2003. And yeah, he's the angel investor. So yeah, we're getting fucking data. We're mining data, baby. That's what the sale really is.
I mean, you were always mining data with the Pokemon Go.
I mean, yeah. So it's just another company doing it. I mean, it was just making a lot of news because of the Saudi, connection, but really, it's not the Saudi sovereign wealth fund directly buying it. They just own Scopely. They own other mobile games. It really saddened me to find that out because my theory was that there was just some Saudi prince that really liked Pokemon. And
in his free time, he's like one of those South Korean grandpas riding around on a bike with a million phones and is just swiping them all.
And he had just been buying so many Pokecoins, so he was like, I might as well just buy the fucking company. That was in my headcanon what was going on, and I prefer that story, quite frankly. But yeah,
you're not Niantic. You have to be pretty disappointed overall with that. I feel like if you sold like 4 or 5 years ago, you would have made way more than 3.3 billion. 3.5 billion. I'm sorry.
I mean,
I
that's
threw
still
away 200 million.
That's
it's good, but I feel like Pokemon Go at its peak could have been worth far more.
I don't think so. I don't think it was selling for 3.5 billion in 2018 when that would be the peak of it. It fell off a bit before COVID, and then COVID it had a little peak up because they like expanded the radius of
because they allowed you to play without having to actually engage with moving around and doing things.
And people were just spending money, but it's gone down, it's kind of
because they took away all those features and were like, no, go back outside and walk around, you swine.
And
they recently brought a lot of them back, some of the features back. They've been pumping more, during these events, pumping more Pokemon to rural areas, rural juror.
The thing that I was surprised by actually is I think you're overstating the drop off a little bit because it's a top 10 downloaded video game or downloaded mobile game for every year since it's been released, which is like, I don't know, that's a lot. That's a lot of downloads.
That's competing with things like Fortnite Mobile
but it's a Pokemon
Call of
game.
Duty Mobile.
It's never going to have much drop off. The drop off is more the cultural zeitgeist of like Pokemon go to the polls and like, that type shit dropped off. So like the casuals, aren't in the game as much. It's just, crazy fucking idiots like me and other Pokemon fans, who are going to play it regardless because they have some sort of brain worm that, was
because
implanted into them in the early 2000s.
Isn't there a direct link now between Pokemon Go and whatever the mobile stadium game they announced was?
Well, no, there's always been
Pokemon Champions where you could move them directly from Go to the game.
No, it's always through home.
Yeah, it's exactly. There's always been a way to go to home, and then home will be connected to Champion.
My understanding was that you didn't need home between the two mobile.
So
I mean, maybe you'll be able to send them directly, but like you've always had to send them into home.
Yeah, to get them onto console.
Yeah. But so like there's been, a lot of talk about it. A lot of people are upset because Scopely's known to, like really monetize
up the monetization.
Their games. But to me, it's Pokemon Go's already super monetized. Like, there's nothing you could do to make it more monetized. You already have to. The only way to get Pokemon coins, which is like the in-game currency, without buying them, is to like put your Pokemon at a gym, and you only get like 50 coins max, I think, a day per Pokemon. But you gotta have, either defeat the gym completely to take it over, or be able to add one, like. So there's really no way to generate the coins unless you're fucking
the
really
thing that
grinding.
they could end up doing could be the Candy Crush model, where they just limit how much you're allowed to play without buying more in-day playtime.
That's just that is both based and evil.
Yeah, I think that would be crazy.
Because it's like good.
It would be like 20 Pokeball throws per day.
Shouldn't be allowed to play those games for that long. But
if they were to limit a Pokemon player's Pokemon time,
literally they would get so much money out of it because the crazy people would be like, I'll pay $5 to get 20 more Pokeball throws.
I think it's more likely that they would.
This is my story.
I think that they would pay. I
I don't think so. I think that they would. I think they would first riot because.
Well, yeah, they would be really mad vocally, and then they would silently pay. and
But
they would
there would be a
silently
point
pay
where
out.
they would truly run out of money.
Like the good little pain pigs they are.
No,
But
because what's more important on Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Food, shelter, or Pokemon?
That's
For
what I'm
those people,
saying.
Pokemon takes precedent.
But they're then going to run out of money because they're going to be putting all
There's
of their money.
always copper wiring that you can steal. There are always catalytic converters that
I
are
was
open
just
to
gonna
be
say catalytic converters, but man, with going electric, like you can't even scrap a Tesla now. I was thinking about that. People that want to get rid of their Teslas, you can't even scrap it. It's all plastic to begin with. Maybe you could get the cobalt out of the fucking,
I would really
the-
highly recommend meth heads not try to cut open batteries to steal the.
Yeah.
We all know where used car batteries belong, and it's in the sea.
No,
This
you
is
mean
just my
in
PSA.
China.
Yes.
Mariana's Trench is there for a reason.
It's just my PSA as someone who worked in high energy batteries. Please do not think you can just cut them open and just be like, "Oh, look, cobalt. Let me take that."
Can I back to the story at hand? Can I list for you the mobile ad networks that were recently added to Pokemon Go? That people are
Yes.
thinking like, oh yeah, we're gonna start getting just absolutely ridiculous ads. Okay, so this list shows Google AdMob, okay, Iron Source, Aploven Max, Fiber, FYBER, Apodil, Admost, Hop On, Ditto for Trad Plus, Yandex, Direct Monetization, and quote, several others.
I've never gotten an ad in Pokemon Go.
It's
Get ready for it.
Is
Is
that
that
ready,
because I have
baby?
Play Pass? It might be because I
That'll
have
be
Play
the other way
Pass.
they get money out of you is that the free version will be with ads and it'll have those really annoying little X buttons that you can't hit properly that'll pull up the ad when you try to close them.
I have to say, I've gotten pretty damn good.
This is more
Hey,
about your
that-
internet browsing history than
But what was I going to say? Yeah, I did want to bring up one of the other games that was sold. Pinkman Bloom.
Pikmin?
Pikmin.
Yeah.
Pikmin, yeah, sorry. I'm
Pinkman?
autistic. Leave me alone.
Jesse Pinkman?
Well, because I had Aaron Paul Walker on the mind.
Mr. Miyamoto, we need to cook.
But yeah, there's
you're gonna have to, watch a video about the great new city that they're building in Saudi Arabia that will never be completed.
What was
and
the game?
That's how
at
they're gonna
PAX?
monetize.
There are two cities. There's Neon,
Yeah,
the
Neon.
line, but then there's what was the Qiddiya is
Qiddiya.
the gamer city.
yes.
You're going to have a lot of integration between Pokemon Go and Qiddiya in the next 5 years. They'll allow you to virtually walk around Qiddiya to catch Pokemon.
I mean,
All right. Well, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to transition us with, but I didn't actually have a decent transition. Because who knows what the next 5 years are gonna bring for
the world.
the world and for the recently returned and revived Game Informer.
Dude,
So-
Revived
this
is
was
an
such a
interesting
this was a
term.
great
It's more like a
yeah.
bloated corpse.
This was a headline where I was like, cool, and then I read it and I was like, oh.
And that's been like everybody's reaction so far, but like the actual people there are being like, no, it's not as bad as it seems. Or okay, so Game Informer, we all know the legendary historic print magazine that had a storied history that was just completely nuked when it was shut down by fucking GameStop. An interesting parallel that ties its past to its future is that GameStop, say GameStop closed Game Informer, is closing like 90% of its stores, but it's all still on crypto. And so too is their new owner. It's a confusing conglomerate. It's unclear necessarily who at what level. I was listening to an interview with one of the past and now returning members of Game Informer. They don't even fully understand the structure, that's what gives me pause. They maintain that Game Informer will retain all editorial independence and control. That this new company, so they're being owned by Gunzilla, which is this it's a studio, but also a fund group that has multiple. So it's got the studio, it's got other interest. Apparently, it's got some investments in aerospace.
Nice.
Great, the most moral company out there, I would assume.
Wait, did you realize Neil Blomkamp is like?
Yes,
My
yes.
God,
Say Blumpkin?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Neil Blomkamp. Neil Blom. Neil Blomkamp, the Oscar-nominated District 9 creator.
Jesus.
So yeah, Gunzilla is this. It is both a development team as well as a investment fund of some sort that like shares control. So from the interview that I watched, the heads of this fund are also those who at the head of the studio, so there is interplay there. Even though Game Informer has now basically been spun off as its own company with its own, again, editorial board, that they maintain their independence. At least for now, it's a good story in that all of the previously laid off staff have returned. They all have work now. The backlog, the back catalog of Game Informer has been restored online, which I would assume some intrepid, gaming historian or whatever has now gone back and like backed up all those things, so they're not just gone anymore. And they're not just at the risk of being deleted on a whim.
They put that back up and then make you pay Ethereum or Bitcoin to gain access.
Yeah. So they are Gunzilla. A little bit of information on Gunzilla. Yeah, run by Neil Blomkamp.
Blumkin. Just say his true name.
There's a game developer co-founded. So he's a co-founder. I don't know what his relationship is in the day-to-day operations, but say a former fintech entrepreneur, Vlad Korolov, definitely a sicko there.
Mm-hmm.
Former Warface lead Alex Zoll and filmmaker Neil Blomkamp. The studio is currently making the quote world's most unhinged battle royale, Off the Grid, which is a PvPvE.
Lot of P2P
NFT blockchain extraction battle royale.
That's just a lot of words,
That
which
was the
all
point.
in succession make the game sound progressively worse.
That apparently has already been out. Apparently, this is not
The
like
fact
some
that
upcoming
it's out
release.
and I don't know about it means exactly what.
But apparently, I was doing more research on it, and of course,
It's a rug pull. It's a rug pull.
They maintain, you have to like dive into the company's like FAQ to see that NFTs are completely optional, not a core part of gameplay. That
No, but they have a token that's on the exchange, which is definitely directly tied to the game.
think that I think is launching imminently. I don't think that has launched yet. That might be like this week.
It launches on the 30th.
I think, is it on Monday? Yeah, I saw something about that. Day this episode launches, we may see that Game Informer has imploded because the company that owns them, all their leadership is now being investigated for fraud.
You see, I can't wait to put the mask on again
We'll see.
as NFT gamers get the rug pulled on them for the 12th time.
13th time is the charm.
I
Gotta
mean,
work
only
eventually.
quitters quit after 12 hits.
You're gonna every loss you're closer to a win.
That's what I keep telling myself with everyone who invested in Tesla stock and is just watching it. You just keep holding and eventually it'll go back up.
Diamond hands, baby.
There's been an issue with my grandparents holding on to Apple stock, and they're just like getting so stressed out about it, but being like, it's going to go back up. It's going to go back up. Apparently, I heard through the grapevine that my aunt was able to get them to sell most of it.
Now unrealized losses become real losses.
They probably have held that for a long time.
Yeah.
No, they absolutely have. Yeah, so again, it's good to see that the backlog has been restored. If anything, that's from a preservation point of view, that's good to see. I don't know about I remember when Game Informer closed, they were talking a lot about their physical backlog stuff in terms of like their archive of things that they had that were unpublished, but they had interviews and video and all sorts of like cool things. Just like I'm putting on my fedora hat and cracking the bullwhip and being like, it belongs in a museum. So I don't know if they've retained access to that stuff, or I should say regained access to any of that with this whole purchase. Yeah, the people that have come forward publicly at Game Informer, they remain positive. I think after being burned so badly that they have done their due diligence to be like, we're not going to return, just if in 6 months from now, we're
going to be done again.
that they'll sell this off. Like from conversations that they've had that that I've learned from these interviews is that this group knows that Game Informer is not going to be profitable for at least the foreseeable future, and that they see this as a long-term investment that will. They see it as a prestige item, which I think is true and potentially one of the better ways to view it, to not look at it as a direct profit driver, right? That it is something to, it's a portfolio padding type of thing. But then the question becomes, if that is part of your thinking that, okay, this is not going to be at least immediately profitable, is that what if, again, the fund puts all their money into fucking, the blockchain and
just to cut their losses and get rid of the unprofitable pieces.
And it just implodes, right? So I don't know, like those discussions that they've had, obviously we're not privy to, like if there's anything, what
my uncle works at Game Informer. I know exactly what's going on.
So what there is that's legally binding, to keep that from happening, because I see their
probably not much.
Yeah, I see this as like as a promise made in seeming good faith, but that could just easily come back and be like, yeah, no, this is the financials.
There's always
just don't
the
work for us
fear
anymore.
When someone's like, we know you're not going to be profitable, but like we're invested in this for the long term. For how long you can be unprofitable before they're like, okay,
how long
that's
is
it.
the long term?
Yeah.
Or until they're like, well, you're unprofitable, so how about you start boosting our games and tokens within your writing?
And they've said that kind of stuff might be in contracts, though, is that they have said that in all their agreements that they will not come back if any of that is forced on them, and if they try to do that they will at least make a stink about it.
That's probably all that's going to happen.
That they'll report on it. But that means that they won't do it, right? They'll be like, this
all
company
of a sudden,
is
all
trying
Godzilla
to.
games are going to get 95 pluses from Game Informer.
Game Informer said that they have no intention of implementing blockchain technology for their own systems. I'm subscribed to their whatever their new newsletter email list thing is, so I'm going to be keeping up to date on what's going on and.
You'll be able to tell me the updates and ratings for all the Godzilla releases.
Yeah. I'll be your first line of...
Yeah, that way we can tell if we need to get in on the ground floor of the next PvPvE, Battle Royale extraction, NFT blockchain.
Yeah.
Extravaganza!
Ben, I'm with you in that, on surface, it sounds okay. I just don't trust these types of people. I do not trust you to, stay committed to these things that actually make this not terrible thing.
And even if it is in contracts, that they won't do that, they won't be forced upon them. Contracts are broken all the time, buddy.
Yeah.
And if you don't care about, the repercussions, it don't matter.
Yeah, I don't foresee this ending well. It's just more of how long does it take.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's how long is long term.
Over the next 18 to 24 months, they'll cycle out some of the, your editor-in-chief will leave and go somewhere else. They'll get to install someone who's, favorable to them, and then, it'll just be their token mouthpiece.
I think that, they may see an uptick in some subscriptions when they, reopen their print subscription thing, because that hasn't been started yet. That's was part of signing up to their mailing list, was to learn more about their plans for eventual publication going forward. That hasn't been disclosed yet, and so I think there may be an uptick there, but it's going to be from people like me and from other insular games media folk who rightfully so, lamented its loss and are going to be like, of course, I'm going to support them to celebrate their return and to, try to keep this effort going. How many games journalists subscribing is going to turn profitability, and that would, I don't think there are enough game journalists out there to make that possible.
Every games journalist buys 5 Bitcoin and donates 5 Bitcoin to Game Informer.
Yeah.
For 5 Bitcoin a day, you too could feed and shelter one Game Informer employee.
I mean, I'm a fan of games print media, my plan is to subscribe, initially, but like, yeah, it's going to be with a increased critical eye to make sure to, see what's being covered, how their editorial stance may or may not be being influenced by
Moneyed interest.
Speaking of moneyed interests, we got our
Moneyed
final story of
interests.
the week.
It's kind of a big one, I think.
What's the Chinese currency? What's the yuan? Is that what it is?
Yuan.
I think
The Juan.
Juan
the
Pablo.
yes.
Juan.
Yeah.
Yeah, Juan Pablo.
We're moving from dollars to won, or
Dollars to Juan.
francs. First, we're moving from dollars to francs, from francs to won.
It's really weird to move from dollars to hot dogs,
Yeah,
but I do spend a lot of
It's
dollars
always
on hot
franc.
dogs. So
It's still francs in my mind.
It's still francs. Fair enough. Yeah. So this
The
is
euro- Unless it becomes the euro dollar and I can call them eddies, it's a fake currency.
fuck yeah.
or quid.
So Eve and the Guillemot family have found themselves a little bit of runway and an out from their increasing hostile takeover pressure through activist investors that own Ubisoft stock. And they've done that by partnering with Tencent, spinning off essentially everything that makes them any money into a subsidiary that Tencent will own 25% of, and
Big portion of the cookie.
What did they own like 5% of the Guillaume holding group?
They own
whatever.
about 10% of Ubisoft. Besides this, Tencent already owns about 10% of Ubisoft, and the Guillemot family owns 20%. So they've also now spun this off. Ubisoft owns 75% of the subsidiary. Tencent owns 25%. For now. This came with a cash infusion of about $1.4 billion from Tencent, which actually hilariously means this subsidiary's value is greater than Ubisoft's market capitalization.
Well, that was part of the discussion, right? That was before this happened, was that the major properties that Ubisoft runs, Assassin's Creed being the main one, are worth more than the current company is because of, well, one, their overhead is insane. They employ far too many people, which is a shitty thing to say.
I was about to say, you just gave them the full justification to downsize.
Yeah, it's like they are,
but
their
it's
costs
French.
are
I was going to say,
astronomical.
the unfortunate part for them, speaking with air quotes here, is that the French government won't just let them get rid of half their employees.
I mean, that's kind of what I see this as. They've said this cash infusion is going to go to help pay down their ballooning debt, which went from about $500 million to around $2 billion over the last 5 years.
Holy shit.
Wow.
Because I would have thought that with the first quadruple A game, Skull and Bones, they would have been swimming in money.
Game. That'll forever be one of the funniest things that they've done.
It's funny how that game released and then they just stopped talking about it. It's crazy.
But they are still committed to it. They're still supporting it. They're still putting out
they probably
updates.
have a deal with the Myanmar government where they have to pretend to support it for 3 years.
It's the Singapore government, but yeah.
Yeah, Singapore. But yeah, to me, this means if you're not in one of the studios working on those games, you should probably be shitting yourself.
You should probably be shopping your resume around.
Get out there on the job market today, because I don't think things are good for where you sit. It seems like this is going to be essentially a way to, they claim that they're going to continue to invest in their other properties and make games there as well, but I don't believe that. I think it's going to become essentially the parent will become their operations, like their back end stuff. It's just going to be a cost center. They're going to cut the development and just let it be what helps make the subsidiary actually run effectively.
The interesting part about the subsidiary is this comes after a couple weeks worth of rumors of them shopping some of their major IP around to, I think it was Microsoft, Tencent, Sony, and a few other larger publishers to try to regain capital.
Because that ties to what I was just saying before, right? Is that that the individual properties are themselves worth a whole lot more than what the company itself stands at.
I remember making an overt joke about, like, if you sell Assassin's Creed, you've lost the entire thing that makes Ubisoft any money at this point.
Right. I was just like, how would they justify still existing if they did that?
And they
Maybe
can't.
that's
And
the end game. They just don't want to exist anymore. Instead of being able to fire people, they're just like, we'll sell all the things that make us money, and then we'll just stop existing as a company.
I think it's still a continued push to take this eventually private. I think they're just trying to make it easier by essentially having a mechanism to maybe take this subsidiary private on its own and just let what is left of Ubisoft essentially get liquidated, and just that won't be a thing anymore. It'll just disappear. It'll be sold off for parts and shut down as like an entity. I think that's one of their goals. I think the other goal here is to just monetize more. If you look at
they can't monetize more. They're already so heavily monetized.
If you look at what they announced, it's like, we want to expand our recurring revenue. Like that's kind of their business thesis for doing this, and they specifically point to Tencent's success in the mobile gaming industry and like that sort of.
You think that this means
strategy.
they're going to decouple Ubisoft Plus from Game Pass?
I mean, potentially. I mean, Ubisoft's always been pushing for their own fucking app, and it was always been annoying.
I
And
don't think they would, just because
they have been.
They would get far fewer individual downloads than they would get as piggybacking off of.
Yeah.
No, I
mean, it all
agree,
comes down
but
to the math of is being tied to Game Pass and not having the raw subscriber money on top of the various microtransactions that the Game Pass subscribers are paying with the access. Is that more than if they stopped having that access and people had to pay their money up front for the subscription and the microtransactions on top of that? That's the calculus that needs to be done.
I just don't think anybody except for French sickos are going out of their way to subscribe individually to Ubisoft.
I remember the Ubisoft Connect app used to essentially be malware on your computer and would just open itself randomly and would take like 50% of your RAM constantly, and
it's still shitty. I was playing for an upcoming episode. I was playing Assassin's Creed Unity, and it would keep logging me out every time. Every time I'd have to reopen the game, I'd have to re-log in to Ubisoft Connect and till then launch the game through Ubisoft Connect. So I was at the local used game store and got a copy of Syndicate for $10 for PS4. So I will be playing it there instead.
Yeah, could you imagine if Ubisoft Connect was prompted on console too? It's like, I know there are some Bethesda games in particular where you have to sign into your Bethesda account on console.
I recently played Doom 2016 also for an upcoming episode. And it doesn't have that, but the homepage of when you load the game is essentially that. The start the game is up here in a tiny corner, and pre-order Doom the Dark Ages is like 3 panels of the entire screen.
So yeah, this is, to me, I think they've not released, the details are still scant. Like they are just at the point where they could announce this. It's expected that the deal will actually close by the end of this year. As those things start to happen, as they start to apply for regulatory approval, we'll learn more about like exactly how this is structured and what it means for Ubisoft parent. But ultimately, this sadly is a win for the Guillemot family. Like it definitely helps them. It's a big win for them.
We hate to see them winning.
Yeah, they win twice this month because honestly, Shadows seems to be doing at least fairly decently.
I will admit, I always think it's funny when you use number of players, not number of sales as a figure.
That is very, very funny.
Because there was some calculus that was done where it was like, okay, they tout like 3 million players, that's 75%, 25% split between console and PC.
Was that what I sent you guys? That was like it was purely speculative. I think that was based off of the 2 million figure. I don't know if I was at 3 million yet. And yeah, it was purely speculative. This is like just them doing like the internal head logic, but this is for the 3 million. So 3 million players, broken down 73% console, 27% PC. At 2
Console
point,
split is then
2.16
70-30
consoles.
PlayStation.
So yeah, they said basically roughly, said 1.5 million copies sold on PS because you cannot play with Ubisoft Plus on PlayStation. 600,000 players on Xbox. Assume this is again, you're getting into complete speculation. Assuming that half of them bought it, so that's another 300.
I would actually think it would be a much lower percentage bought it based on.
Probably. But so this person has it basically estimated at 2.2 million sales.
Which is still a good launch. It's just, I always find it funny whenever you have a company that's mainlining subscription services. They never talk about raw sales. It's always number of players. Especially with the PC market, number of players can be, I downloaded it, played for 2 hours, and then refunded it because I fucking hated it. It's on Steam, right? Yeah. Because they've started to put their games back on Steam because no one wants to play fucking Ubisoft Connect.
Yeah. I mean, we hate to see the Guillaume brothers winning. We hate it.
We do. They suck, and unfortunately, yeah, it's been a good 2 weeks for them. I mean, their last year has been shit. So, like, on the aggregate, they're still losing, but this is a good good month.
That's the fun part is AC Shadows will look like such a win for them because when you do a year-to-year comparison, it's going to look like a 400% bump in year-to-year sales.
Exactly.
Because it'll be compared to Prince of Persia, which didn't sell very well, but was critically acclaimed. It'll be compared to Skull and Bones, which we don't talk about.
And then Star Wars Outlaws, which undersold Jedi Survivor, which was a game released the year previous.
Hilarious.
Undersold that game.
Undersold in that year.
In the year,
in the same year.
Brutal.
God damn.
Brutal.
God damn.
Still never forget Best Buy sending me a copy of Star Wars Outlaws instead of the game that I purchased.
They couldn't get rid of it.
I think it was Astrobot that I bought, and they were like, "Here's Star Wars Outlaws," and I was like, "No, take it fucking back right now." They were definitely just trying to like clear out stock in their warehouse.
We can't give it away. They're sending it back.
Like we'll refund you, but just keep the game.
We'll send you what you actually ordered with a $10 gift card. Just keep that one, please. It costs us more money to send it to the dump.
Yeah, it's not worth restocking.
Oh man, according to the Star Wars Outlaws subreddit, it's the most underrated game that's ever been released, and everyone who hates it is just an Ubisoft hater.
I'm generally proud to be an Ubisoft hater these days.
Definitely. I was reading some analysis, and ultimately I think they're going to try and boost their ability to generate recurring revenue. So whatever that means, these games and products are all primarily single player. So the multiplayer, always live kind of model is hard to kind of work in here. That's why I think they're going to do some mobile chicanery. I think they're going to somehow try and put ads in places that you might not expect. That's really the next frontier.
Are they still
of these
pushing
things.
forward with, I don't remember the exact name of it. It was like their Assassin's Creed like hub.
Kind of, but not really.
Like AC Infinity, I think is what it was called.
It's because that's kind of how Shadows works now.
So like I could see them trying to buy that mobile.
You're not getting ads. Your player character in the Animus is getting ads. The Animus has been monetized, not you.
Yeah.
You're not being monetized.
Perfect. Exactly. That's exactly how it'll work.
Or just set it up so that when you go to like leave the Animus, it's like, ooh, you've already left the Animus twice today. Pay $5 to gain 2 more Animus trips.
But yeah. This is a win for the Guillemot brothers. I don't think it's all that great for the people who are left at the Ubisoft parent company.
No, you have to be a little scared seeing all of your actual IP go to a brand new subsidiary owned by Tencent.
But most of those studios are being moved. It's the studios. It's mainly like the back end staff.
It'll be the back end stuff and people that are working on games that weren't named. The studios that just aren't working on those games. If you're in that spot,
it's going to be the publishing side of things that I think is going to get hit hardest.
Definitely, which is a bummer. Tencent,
I'm looking forward to Tencent's
I don't want
revival of Skull
Tencent
and
having
Bones.
I don't want them having any more IP and control than they already do.
Does this
not a
by backdoor connection give Tencent power over the Avatar Far Cry game?
No, because that's not
because Disney
included.
Because Disney still will maintain control over that, but Far Cry is part of the deal.
Far Cry's part of the deal, and then the Rainbow Six,
which is what really makes them money. That's what makes them money, right, folks? So yeah, it's been wheeling and dealing here in the month of March. We'll see what April has to bring. We are going to be slightly pushing our schedule a little bit to accommodate other plans. So we'll be off again next week, but you can be on the lookout for a reaction video, a reactionary video to the Nintendo Switch 2 announcement. We will put that up on the YouTube, on Monday instead of a podcast, and then I believe we will be back the next week with Mike is taking a little extra week to have us talk about racing games, which you're gonna have to log me into your Steam account.
You meant racing games as in driving. I thought you meant race games.
I've loaded up The Sims, and I have done some questionable things to my community.
I bought AC Shadows, and I plan to just rant about Yusuke existing.
Okay, folks, we will see you next week. You can follow us on all the social medias, CampCon Pod, Campaign Comrades, all that jazz. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Peace.